I can hear you.
All right, right on. So,
Can you hear me all
the
right?
yeah, I have something to
True
confess.
confession.
I have a true confession to make to you. Are you prepared? Are you sitting down?
I'm not sitting down, but but I'm
You
prepared.
you,
Bring it
you
on.
might want to sit down. On my way to bed the other night, I may or may not have fallen asleep on the couch for a few minutes, and I woke up and like kind of like animatronic, like I wasn't sleepwalking, but I think I may have been sleep eating. I actually spread some Nutella on some Triscuits and ate about, I don't know, 8 or 9 of those before bed. Um, am I going to healthy food hell for that?
No, you're not. Back to the whole there is no failure, right?
All
You
right.
probably picked up a little message in your body from that, I'm guessing, which is why you're
Yeah,
carrying this guilt around.
it was the fetal ball sucking the thumb, writhing back and forth. I was not pretty.
And you know
No,
what's interesting though is we get so stuck on the failure there. You get stuck on the Triscuits and the Nutella when really the better question to ask yourself is, why did you fall asleep on the couch? I mean, it's the
yeah,
step ahead of that, you know?
yeah,
What
yeah.
was happening before that?
Why am I pushing it so hard that I need to fall asleep on the
Yeah.
couch and go eat some Triscuits with Nutella? That's an awesome
Hmm.
point. I know you're going to talk about that in your section, so let's get to you here. I wanted to share some failures with you guys too, just to let you know that I'm not one of those personal development speakers that's like, there's no weeds in my garden, everything's perfect in my life. By no means, we're all on our own journey. That brings us to week two. Week two, non-negotiable number 2, vitality, fuel, and movement. And if creating space and your soul connection in your life is kind of the thing that drives the whole life experience, I would say that your health and vitality dictates whether you'll even be able to pull it off. That's how important health and vitality are. I can honestly tell you I was never always an athlete. It's quite the opposite. I was always a musician. I was always a partier. I was always a burning the candle at 5 ends kind of guy. And just in like the last 12 years or so did I really discover some of the joys of running and trying to eat a little bit better. This is probably a commonplace sight on my desk. Yes, I do have a sweet-ass turntable on my desk, and yes, I typically have a bright green concoction that looks like pond water on my desk. It's that if I have to operate at maximum potential and capacity all day long, I have to fill my body with things that promote that. 10 years ago, this would be coffee and donuts. Today in 2014, it's vinyl and raw juice. What do you think is cooler? I mean, you still might say coffee and donuts, but I can guarantee you it won't make you feel as good. I'm kind of pursuing the beautiful refrain of this amazing wedding classic, The Electric Slide. But here's what I learned about food and vitality, and I have our subject matter experts that are going to kind of support some of their own findings from over the years. But this is pretty simple. I'm no philosopher, as you could tell. If it makes you feel like shit, do not eat it. If it makes you feel great, try your best to eat more of it. Just simple research on my own body. That's why I felt compelled to share the Triscuits and Nutella story with you, is that I immediately felt a reaction to it, because if you drink this all day long and then you throw a little grenade in there, like a Triscuit with some Nutella on it, you're going to feel the pain. As far as movement goes, I love this quote. I was at my kid's karate class one day, and this video was kind of on a loop to entertain the parents. And this quote popped up, and it said, "If you own a body, you are an athlete." And I thought, wow, what a compassionate statement. And why the hell didn't I hear this when I was a kid? You know, my brother was the jock. I was the band guy. You'll never be an athlete, Chris. You'll never run. You'll never, do those things. And it ultimately awoke this real curiosity in me around running. You know, I ran a half marathon a couple months back. I'm training for a couple more this year, and I'm hoping to get back into running full marathons. But, like when you're able to transcend all of your problems and outrun all of your demons, it is such a gift. And if you couple this with a soul practice, it really feels unstoppable by the time you attack your workday. One of the benefits this year, kind of an integration side effect, is that my wife started running, kind of inspired by my own path, and she ran her first relay. And I can tell you this picture is the first time in history, in Carter history, that the two of us have ever left the house at the same time on a Saturday morning at like 7 in the morning, because we were both running. And I'm just so proud of her for taking this journey with me. So here's our quick agenda. We're going to cover bodily fuel with Karen Friend-Smith from the Kitchen Skinny. We're going to get into movement and strength with Dr. Chris Stepien. And then we're going to have an open Q&A for our subject matter, badasses. And most importantly, I want to leave you guys with, of course, your next steps for next week. So let's get it rolling with our friend. Give her a virtual round of applause, Miss Karen Friend Smith. Woo!
Hello. It's so great to be with everybody. Let me get my screen up here. If I can get there.
We trust you, Karen.
There we go. Can you see it?
Yeah.
All right. Off to a good start then. So anyway, it's great to be with all of you guys, and really I thought I'd just let you peek into our house a little bit here for a minute and meet the family, because that really is where this where our journey started, stopped, continues, all of that stuff. But you know, basically just an average American family. We live in a cookie cutter house and a cookie cutter street with cookie cutter neighbors and you know, I mean, a lot of cookie cutter stuff in our life. And probably the one thing that wasn't so cookie cutter is just that we're entrepreneurs and we kind of always have some crazy project going on. But other than that, you know, built our life around our kids and our community and all that. And but one day we kind of got to this point where we recognized that what you know, this whole thing of being normal, we're really not that normal anymore. The fact that we're, you know, a family, you know, my husband and I have been married for 22 years, that's not so normal. The fact that our daughters enjoy coming home and being with us for dinner is not very normal. Sitting here and eating a Whole Foods dinner that we cooked ourselves from scratch is not very normal. A lot of things that we've all kind of gotten away from, not, you know, not so normal anymore. And but it was this interesting journey getting here, so I just wanted to share a couple of minutes about that. I think I have, you know, we've had, Casey, you've sat here at our table with us. I think you probably remember the scene.
I looked amazing. I was so much shorter then. I grew so much from that great
Did
food.
you see her? Did you? I know, you were so tiny compared to the rest of us, but but this is a picture of us back in 2006, and we were a lot more normal then, I think. Very busy, convenience-driven. We did all of our grocery shopping at Costco. We ate out 3 or 4 times a week. You know, we were just on the go. We were building businesses. We were busy, and you know, I think we always knew we needed to do better, but there was no time, we had no energy, there was no motivation, no discipline. You know, I think maybe our biggest fear too is just that we were afraid of having to give up what we loved. You know, one of the only things that we enjoyed doing together as a family at this stage, well, TK and I have always really liked each other, but when you have kids, they get to stages where they don't really like each other very much. And you know, the one thing we could all do together was eat out, and everybody was happy and had fun doing that. So as we got healthier, you know, thinking about eating healthier and things like that, the idea that we'd have to, you know, do something different than what we were doing on our high-speed trail, you know. But we kind of had, everybody has their catalyst moment where they should make their shift and something happens, and we were really lucky that it wasn't some, you know, wasn't a shark attack, it wasn't a, you know, any kind of disease or anything like that, but TK's 40th birthday was our catalyst. So this picture in 2006 was about a year before his 40th birthday, and he had this thing in his mind that he was going to be in great shape by the time he turned 40. And quite frankly, this, from age 30 to 40, he put on about 70 pounds. And as I was getting closer to 40, I was suddenly, for the first time in my life, putting on weight that I couldn't manage. And we were just trying to figure out what was going wrong, and our youngest daughter was having health issues. There was just all this stuff that was going on, and we felt like we were living a pretty healthy, you know, life, doing what you're supposed to do, but obviously we weren't doing it quite right. So we got really serious and decided we're going to start exercising more. We're going to watch our calories. We're going to eat less carbs. We're going to eat less fat. And, you know, during all those, you know, the 30s, we did every diet you could possibly imagine. This whole thing was an up and down thing for a long time. But when we finally got to 40, it was like, okay, we're laying it down. We're serious. We're going to make this happen. And so, you know, all that exercise, all this watching our food, and we were just obsessed for the year, just crazy obsessed. We got to the point where we were working out 8 hours a week, pretty much taking a workout class every day. We were crazy obsessed about what we were eating. And what we found in the process was that we the more we did, the more we had to do. And it just didn't seem right. We would, the more we worked out, the more we would have, it was like our body kept pushing to, pushing us back to where we'd come from. And it was a struggle. It was like we were always working against ourselves. And we also, we were just really, that's kind of when we started looking at, even one little slip up in our food would result in moving backwards. And it just didn't make sense. And turning, get 40 and you're thinking, man, are we going to be able to do this for the rest of our lives? We were doing very intense stuff, and it just didn't seem sustainable. And so that's when we kind of started looking at our food a little bit more, like maybe if we, drink this protein drink, it would help us perform better in our workout. Or maybe if we did the, we just started playing around with our food. And what that did was it just kind of opened up a whole new world of looking at how food interacts with your body. And as a result, it just opened up a whole new rabbit hole in our world, and we got crazy obsessed on that. We started pursuing and studying and experimenting and all this stuff with food and with nutrition and starting to understand how your body works, and in the process just realized that we really had it all backwards, and that we were really just working on the symptoms, not the cause, kind of like everything else we do here in America for sure, focusing on the pill instead of the prevention and the cause of, how you work with your body instead of against it. And in the process of that, we found this magic place, and it was a long journey and all of that, but the benefits and what happened in our lives is what got us all, got us motivated to get out and share all of this with people. So because so many of our friends, even today, as much as we've been preaching for the last 3 years, they still are on this treadmill of just trying to beat themselves into submission. And it's just really not the best approach to getting there. And keep running in circles for the rest of your life trying to do that. So let's talk for a minute about those things that don't work. So that first one being the exercise more thing. It's amazing. I've heard it so many times in the last few weeks about, I'm just going to exercise more this year. That's the thing I got to do. And the bottom line is you cannot work off a bad diet. It's just not possible, and not for the long term. And there's a reason for that. It's just, calorie is not a calorie. It's just been drilled in our head that we just got to burn calories, but we're not really looking at what those calories are. And so your body processes, broccoli much different. It's going to, process cupcake or something, right? So we know that in our heads, but we just have it so drilled in us that we just got to get, just add that one extra workout or add that one thing. And if your purpose in doing that, I love exercise. Exercise is great, and Dr. Chris is going to be talking about that. But understanding that that's not going to, if you think that's going to clean up your diet and get you the results that you're looking for, that's really not where you're going to find it. The next thing that really doesn't work is the whole eat less thing. And I don't know how much of this, some of you are probably like totally on, and this crowd isn't a very enlightened group of people. I know you kind of know this stuff, but it's amazing how we try to restrict things from ourselves and tell ourselves we can't eat this, we can't do that. And so if you're eating less or going on a diet, it's really only a temporary fix. As long as you're restricting and all of that. Our bodies are set up to protect us, so they're actually programmed to keep us from starving ourselves, to keep us from stressing ourselves out. So our body will put up, it'll build fat in our fat cells just to protect us and to keep us safe. So trying to work against that is just not a good plan at all. Certainly this quick fix mentality that we all have, that, we all know there's no magic bullet, there's no pill, there's no potion, there's no lotion, there's no magic sauce.
Is there a pop quiz, Karen? Is there a magic resolution you could make that'll clean up this whole mess, or not? Like for the new year?
Is there a magic resolution? Yeah. There is. Moving away from, being the overachiever and this mostly thinking that we know what we need to do, but we're just not doing it. You ever said that to yourself? And trying to follow the diet of the week. Anyway, when it all breaks down, if you look at every diet, every program that's out there, there's a million different variations, and what it boils down to is really, they'll all agree on these two things. One is to eat whole foods, and the other is to minimize, eliminate sugar. Pretty much any diet is built on those principles. So, and the reason for that is because it will reset your internal messaging in your body so that you're actually getting clean messages from your body instead of these whacked out things that our bodies are telling us right now. So, and the good news is that when you get to that stage, your body starts to take over and it starts to drive the healthy habits as opposed to like the way that a lot of us feel when it's driving bad habits. Your body also will do the opposite of that. So when you have to take it baby steps, one little tiny toe at a time. When it comes to whole foods, if you're not eating totally 100% whole foods, because who is? That's a challenge in today's world. One meal, focus on one meal at a time. Maybe it's dinner that you could all sit together and have as a family, or maybe just starting off with breakfast the right way. Just know that it's better, instead of setting a goal that I'm going to eat 100% whole foods, set a goal that I'm going to create a habit that allows me to eat one more meal that's made from, that's made from real food and doesn't rely on any processed stuff. It's really about getting your habits shifted up, getting your brain to crave what's healthy instead of craving what's not healthy. And really, I know Casey's going to talk a little bit about habits and everything. We've been told to not sweat the small stuff, and in truth, that's the only stuff that really matters. So if you can look at those daily small little habits, we always want to go for the big stuff, but the truth is it's that little tiny stuff that you do every day that beats you down and that adds up over time. So it's really about looking at those small little habits, those Nutella and Triscuit moments, and thinking about how you can do that differently. The one habit that I would suggest that everybody get into, if you could just do this one thing, it's to learn to check in with your body every time you eat. So when you eat something 20 minutes later, just check in. Do I feel more energy? Do I feel less energy? Do I want to take a nap? Do I want to go for a run? Like, what does it do? What did that food do for me? And when you find yourself feeling really good, stop for a second and, well, what did I eat this morning? What did I eat today? Just start making those connections, because what that does is it reprograms your body to seek out those messages, and it just automatically reinforces it for you. So pretty soon you're going to be drawn to the things that make you feel good instead of the things that make you feel bad. And then I always just encourage people to continue putting some good information in your brain, because you got to learn how the body works, how food works, how it's made, the healing power of food, the politics of food. That kind of stuff helps support you so that you don't rely on willpower. Willpower will only take you so far. And the truth is, you don't have to be Superman to feel like Superman. I do, all these things that, might, to some people, if you stand at a distance, it might look like Superwoman, that we managed to pull off and eat all our meals, primarily from scratch and at home and all that stuff. But we've removed willpower from the equation. We've developed habits and routines, and we've made eating healthy automatic and effortless in our life. And that should be the goal. And if you can get there, I promise you it feels really, really awesome.
Thank you so much, Karen. I loved experiencing your family dynamic firsthand at your table, because it truly is magical. First of all, you people basically glow in the dark. You're so healthy. But second, just how that brings you guys together as a family to really talk and connect while you're all at this kind of peak state of feeling very clear and lucid. So many meals look like this while we're kind of processing something horrific we just ate. I think that's pretty powerful dynamic that you guys have figured out there. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, and letting our family get in the way is just so backwards because the truth is it really is a way to bring your family together. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know we're going to have a Q&A at the end when Chris is done speaking. We're going to get ready to hear from Chris about movement. So save your questions for Karen. I know we have a question about gluten from our friend Martin here, and I'll hop into the movement section. But awesome stuff, Karen. I love seeing your stuff. It's amazing how much it's evolved over the past year and a half, and I love that you guys are out evangelizing how to live the healthy way. So next we're going to come into, you can tell by how much I've bulked up over the past few months, but obviously strength training is very important to me, not so much the case. My own movement training is probably limited to decent amounts of running, and I do a lot of energization exercises as part of my yoga practice. It's kind of more of a hybrid between yoga and Tai Chi that I'm practicing, so not a lot of weight training. Oh, Peter, in case you're wondering what my green drink is, this is a Inner Light Super Greens. It's water, distilled water mixed with this Super Greens concoction. It's like 33 different grasses, and it's a high alkaline drink. And it tastes basically like a neutral green tea. I know it looks like some tadpoles could be living in it, but you know, it does make you feel pretty great. I'll put that on the resources page. All this stuff will be on the resources page, by the way, if I haven't mentioned that. We'll get all this stuff connected. And with that, I'm going to unmute my good friend, Dr. No, I'm not going to unmute my good friend because he called in on the phone. Is that correct, Dr. Chris Stepien? Are you there?
Here I am.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey and specifically founding Hero's Journey CrossFit?
I will do. Thank you for having me, Casey.
My pleasure. Our pleasure.
I guess my story starts when I was in the 3rd grade and I began playing football. I've always been on the smaller side as far as my stature and frame, and immediately when I started playing football, I had my first concussion, first of many concussions in the 3rd grade, and someone very close to me told me I was too small to play football. And unfortunately, it didn't work in stopping me from playing. In the 7th grade, I began working out, and then finally, 6 years later, as a senior in high school, I started on my high school football team, and we won the state championships that year. And I learned a very important lesson that consistency and patience and the right philosophy of health and fitness can help people achieve goals. And I never forgot that. That fitness snowballed until I went to college and I walked onto my Division III football team at Franklin and Marshall College, and they moved me to all these different positions where as a small person I was supposed to be fast, and then they moved me to middle linebacker, which if you know anything about football, you need to be 40 to 50 pounds heavier than I was, and I ended up excelling at it. And then as a senior, we won the conference championship. I was voted team captain. I was voted first team all-conference, and then also voted team MVP for the year 2005. And again, that lesson reinforced itself that it doesn't necessarily matter what the genes you're given, except when you put your body in the right environment, you can excel when you have the right philosophy. So that brought me to graduating from college. I wanted to be a doctor. I never liked medicine. I don't believe medicine gets people healthy, so I became a chiropractor wanting to treat athletes. In chiropractic school, I started absorbing information, and I realized that if I wanted to get people as healthy as possible, I needed to address not only how to fix people as a doctor, but how to move well and eat well. And laying the foundation for the proper lifestyle is the key towards people being their healthiest and happiest self. And that's what I do today is I transform lifestyle versus just treating somebody's symptoms or the effects of how they're living their lives. And that's where I am today as a doctor. Does that make sense? Is that good? So, just let me know, Casey, if I'm...
Yeah, and how recently did you, so your typical work day, because I know I talked to you the other night, you were getting off of work at like 10 o'clock, but you start seeing patients really early in the morning, because are you working at the gym you founded, right?
Yes, I graduated chiropractic school in 2010, and then I opened my practice immediately, then opened the CrossFit gym about 2 years ago, about the time when I met you, and I'm 29 years old. I know some people are usually
29.
surprised.
Yeah.
People are usually surprised at what I'm doing. But everything, all the stuff that we're talking about, what Karen talked about, the gym, this all works together, and there is no one aspect of health. It's always multifactorial. So that's why all this stuff is absolutely necessary. The 5 non-negotiables, they all fit in together. So that's where I'm at today, and that's how I'm able to help people, is through these different approaches comprehensively. So it all starts with the hunter-gatherer model of health. Our genes evolve in a certain environment, and over tens of hundreds of thousands of years, we evolved as hunter-gatherers in nature with certain diets, with certain foods, with certain movements, with certain thought patterns. And because we evolved with that, the strong survive, we need to do the best we can to mimic those environmental conditions in order to allow our genes to express themselves to the maximum capacity. The field of epigenetics really supports that. So epigenetics means based on our environment, we can turn on or off genes. And I love that. That means that we have control over our genetic destiny. So understanding that, we go to the concept of loading capacity and our little bucket. With the bucket, it's how much we're able to do on a daily basis. And as long as we can fit all of our water or our rocks in the bucket, we're healthy. And slowly we can build the bucket size by gradually increasing our load or our stress. And that goes physically speaking or even dietarily speaking. When we overflow our bucket and do too much, whether we're doing too much exercise for a specific body part or whether we're eating too many toxins, we will overflow and we will have symptoms, and our body will let you know. I love that Karen said that we need to listen to our bodies, because our nervous system is always telling us if we do or don't have energy, if we do or don't have pain symptoms or disease, where we're off track. And then we know we need to change our path based on the destination we want to go. So understanding loading capacity and that we want to fill our bucket as much as possible but not overflow it, we get to movement. And a lot of people ask me, what is healthy movement? And I love this quote by the biomechanist Stu McGill from Canada. He says that the only healthy posture is one that's always changing. How beautiful is that quote? It's wonderful, because a lot of people think that they just need to do a little bit more exercise or go on the treadmill a little bit longer and they're going to solve all their goals. And just like Karen said, and she's right on, you cannot work off a bad diet. You also can't out-exercise too much sitting or too much a sedentary posture. Again, how beautiful is this? Because I was a trainer in Buffalo when I was in chiropractic school, and I used to see these people 7 days a week going on the treadmill for an hour at a time, and their body composition never changed. And I started thinking about that, and I realized that they probably do not have number one down, which is eating well. Thank you, Karen, for sharing that wonderful information you did. So understanding that we need to have the right movement patterns and movement habits ingrained into our lifestyle, we get to a few concepts that help us understand what we need to do to be our optimal health and to express the right gene expression. The first concept is one of non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or NEAT. And what that means is where our metabolism is burning outside of exercise and sleep. The most recent evidence supports the fact that, again, no matter how much you work out, even if it's an hour or 2 hours a day of running, your risk of heart disease does not come down if you're sitting more than 4 to 6 hours a day. So we need to keep moving and we need to keep burning. And just like Karen also said that if you eat too little, that's not a result, NEAT gets decreased when you're not eating enough. So we need to eat the right amount to keep NEAT high and to make sure that we're burning calories and staying lean. The next concept is one by Katie Bowman, who explains the joints of the body as a constellation. If you're looking at someone's body from the sides, I picture little stars where their joints are. A star at the hip joint, a star at the knee joint, a star at the foot and the ankle and the shoulder and all that. That constellation of stars needs to change throughout the day, so it helps me understand that my posture has to change. Since we've been sitting here for the past 40 minutes, I've already stood while I was listening to you. I was sitting in the middle 20 minutes, and now
Standing.
I'm kneeling, and I'm switching back and forth. There you are. And you're helping support that concept. There you go, Casey. Take a break. So we need to always change that constellation of stars. Then we can get to the idea of movement through quotas. We can exercise based on setting a certain quota for ourselves. We don't necessarily need to go to the gym in order to do a workout. And I will even tell our CrossFit members this, that it's great that they're CrossFitting, but you don't need CrossFit in order to be as healthy as possible. But you do need to move throughout every day. And we have some exercise prescriptions coming up. As far as the movements that we're doing, because we are ambulatory and bipedal and we walk on 2 feet, the 2 most important movements I always recommend for all Homo sapiens, which most of us on the line are, right? No dogs listening to us.
You don't know that.
Are the two most important movements are squatting and lunging. Lunging is a prerequisite movement towards walking or running as a bipedal, and the other one is squatting. How we would exercise a squat is basically like we would sit in chairs or use a toilet bowl even. So those are very important concepts to understand, and that if we only squat and lunge for the rest of our lives, we will get the most bang for our buck as far as our health and fitness goes. And bang for our buck is an important concept too, because in economics they have this law of diminishing returns, and that states that at some point you're not going to get the most result from a certain amount of input if you're not following the rules. So if we're going to exercise or move, we should do the most important movements first, and we could do any small minor movements later.
Hey, Chris, I have a quick question for you.
Go ahead, Casey.
Yeah, my friend Melissa wanted to know, I'm sure this is a pretty common one, as far as squatting and lunging being the foundation, what if you have bad knees? What if bad knees are kind of prevalent? What do you usually recommend?
I love that question. Okay, first thing is when I was learning how to be a trainer in Buffalo, when I was in chiropractic school, one of the personal trainers was showing me around, and he wanted to watch me train someone. This person was a 55-year-old woman. She's a little bit overweight, and I already had this understanding of squatting, and he asked me what I wanted to do with her, and I said, I'm going to teach her how to squat. And he said, no, she's too old, and she has knee pain. And I thought to myself, okay, how does this person use the toilet bowl if she can't squat? So the thing is that doctors say that all the time, you have knee pain, stop squatting. That's not a functional approach to life, because we need to squat every single time we sit in a chair or use the toilet. So 2 things can help with that. One is if you have knee pain, you're squatting, because of too much sit-in, you've turned your butt and your hamstrings off. And when you turn your butt and your hamstrings off, your quads and your knees get overloaded. So the first thing you can do is understand that you have to squat, and when you do squat, the more you sit backwards and push your butt back as if you're holding a bag of groceries to close a car door, that will put load and stress on your butt and hamstrings and start to train them to work, and that will often take stress off of your knees so that your water doesn't overflow out of your bucket when you are squatting. Does that make sense, Casey?
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of these concepts, since we're always so kind of tight on time, we'll definitely explore more of these too on the Facebook wall, like some of those questions. But I love that answer, Chris. I know I've talked with you about some of that stuff because I'm like most people shackled to my desk for a good chunk of the day.
I hear you. Most of us are. So it's how do we work best in that paradigm? And this is what we can do to help ourselves be as healthy as possible. One, of course, is always the compassionate approach and start small. We put a little bit of water in our bucket at a time, our body recovers and takes the water out of our bucket, then we have a bigger bucket and we can do more work. So it's always understanding, like Ralph Waldo Emerson said, that nature holds all the rules and we have to plant a seed and it slowly will come out a flower out of that seed. I love the quota-based squat program. It satisfies all of those concepts we talk about. It's performing a certain amount of squats in a day without ever going to the gym or having to do a workout. So if you have an 8-hour workday, you can choose to say, I'm going to hit 16 squats or 32 squats or 96 squats, and you're only doing 2 or 4 or 8 squats an hour, and you're keeping your needs up, and you're keeping your body healthy so that pain does not set in. How beautiful is that? If you're making it to the gym, you can do a simple interval workout that will help you work all the body parts you need to in a healthy way. So what I will often do when I'm away on vacation, or even if I don't have a chance to work out, is I'll just do rounds of 10 squats and 10 push-ups, and I'm working all the muscles in my body, and I'm keeping myself active, and I can keep myself lean and work other different factors of fitness that way. Some other things that are very important, not to sit longer than 30 minutes at a time. Again, if you sit for an accumulated time of more than 4 to 6 hours, your risk of heart disease doesn't come down even when you're exercising or 2 or 3 or 4 hours a day. So it's important that we stay active. Certain strategies that help me and help my patients not sit for so long. 5 is to drink at least half your body weight in ounces. That's important for staying hydrated, but that's also important for making you have to pee. The more you have to pee, the more you're going to head to the bathroom. The other thing that really works well for people who are on the computers all the time is egg timer. So you go to Google egg timer, it'll come up, and you set that for 30 minutes, and it'll go off, and then every time that goes off, you know that you'll have to get up and move around and take a 2-minute break before you sit back down. How does that all sound, Casey?
It all sounds great, and it's right in line with some of the stuff we talked about. I mean, you could use that egg timer as well as for your meditation practice. You could do kind of like a half hour of power where you do like 15 minutes of meditation, 15 minutes of movement. You know what I would love for you to do, Chris, if you could you send me a link to a video of what you think is the perfect looking squat? I'd love to share that on the Facebook wall for people on the resources, because we do have some people asking about that. Some people also brought up using the insight timer from meditation last week, which I love. So Chris, thank you so much. This was great. It's pretty well rounded, very simple stuff, but you know, to be so wrapped in theory and your direct experience with being a pro athlete and a doctor and a CrossFit owner, it's hugely valuable. So thanks a lot, man.
You're welcome. I'm happy to help.
All right, and be it because we have like about 5 minutes left of our broadcast, I'm going to blow through a few things. The one thing I want to come back to, and we'll kind of continue on the Q&A when we're in the Facebook wall. However, this idea of build the stairs, like what does build the stairs mean? Well, we're getting ready to stack on another habit for next week, some sort of vitality practice on top of our soul practice. And here's how I think of stairs. I actually had some stairs built in our new garage where I'm moving my office in a couple weeks. And there's 2 parts of the stair. There is the rise and the tread. And if you think about acquiring knowledge and training and putting skills into practice and, you know, leading you to a place where you're going to change your life, it really takes 2 things. It takes the acquisition of knowledge and then the application of it. And if you stay only in the acquisition of knowledge, meaning you're just chasing the next topic and the next program and the next this and that, next that, and without ever really applying it and committing to one, you're only just going to keep moving in a straight line. You're not going to climb the stairs. So I really encourage you to think about this constant cycle of acquisition, application. I know we're throwing a ton of information at you, and I'm hopefully some of it's sinking in, but I really encourage you to practice each week. I'm going to skip over this next part for, I'm going to save this for next week, but there's a great little book called The Art of Living. It's written by a Greek philosopher named Epictetus. I love the fact that he has his name, the epic in his name, but he has this great quote, this great portion of this book. I'd highly recommend this book. This particular Greek philosopher most clearly resembles the yogis, all the yogis that I study. A lot of the same principles that we talk about, right action, you know, small incremental movements, being compassionate with yourself. But I love this quote of, your relentless pursuit of wisdom postpones your actually possessing it. Quit chasing after tonics and new teachers. Practice self-sufficiency. Don't remain a dependent, malleable patient. Become your own soul's doctor. And it says that you don't, all of that, you know, the next diet, the next belief, it doesn't move you in the direction of a flourishing life. You got to remember that you do. So what can I do to empower you to create some better habits? Well, we've got to start by looking at some of the habits that maybe don't serve us. And one of the ways to do that is to check in with yourself. The same way Karen said, you know, check in with yourself after you eat that snacky treat, those cheesy poofs or beer or whatever it is. Check in with yourself on some of your habits, you know, like this habit of working late, drinking lots of coffee. I just gave up coffee again about 5 weeks ago now. web surfing, taking that fifth alcoholic beverage, all these things you can take as starting points. You never really get rid of habits. You can only rewire them. So you could morph these into positive habits. So to sum up Epictetus, I had this quote a couple months ago, is that nobody's going to yank these weeds for you. You got to get on your knees. So, you know, doing 16 squats a day, you know, reaching for some almonds instead of some chocolate, all these things, you have to pay attention to them. Nobody's going to make you do these things for you. So we come back to our graded sheet here, and we need to write in a ritual. So here's what we're going to do, our next steps. Is we're going to commit to a ritual for vitality. And we could kind of jam on some of these on the Facebook wall if you want to, but just little simple things you could commit to, you know, 15 to 20 minutes a day, just starting points, subbing a meal like Karen suggested, just one meal. Lately I've been trying to not eat any meat until dinner time. I'm not necessarily ready to go vegetarian or vegan just yet, but just clearing my system for those first 2 meals of the day has had a huge positive influence on me. So commit to that ritual, write it on your sheet. I'm going to share this with you guys on the resource page, but here's some cues and rewards you could give yourself for creating the habit loop. The most important thing is that you have to approach it as a habit. You're not going to make a resolution around health or wellness and just decide to sign up for the gym membership and go do it. Like Chris said, the willpower is only going to take you so far. You got to wire this habit loop. I'm telling you, this is the key to completely changing your life. So here's what we're going to do this now. Go to the Facebook wall if you can. Commit publicly. We'll cheer you on and kick your butt if we need to. But you got to remember this week, your sole practice is first. You got to keep the current habit going and then stack on the second one. Write it on your daily calendar. Start small. Be realistic. Be compassionate with yourself. I don't know who it was last week that said they were ready for 7 hours of meditation a week. I was laughable. I was like, because even I'm up to like 9 to 11 on average. I thought, wow, 7 hours. That sounds like a hell of a lot of meditation. You got to start really small, incrementally, master it, and then keep stacking on. And then finally, you can always check in at thisepiclife.com resources. We're going to do a replay of this particular session, but I have all the slides up there already. You can download the PDF of the slides if you want Chris's regimen that he recommended. As far as the calendar goes, I think you know what it looks like, but start stacking your check marks. So we have our first 8 for the people that are 8 of 8, and then we just keep on moving from there. While I got you, I definitely want you to tune in next week because we're going to dive deep into relationships and family. Our themes are going to be legacy and balance, and my good friend Jennifer Boykin is going to join us. She is such a badass. She has a site called Life After Tampons. She leads a global community of women who are taking on what she calls their midlife insurrection. So it's like their kids are out of the house, they're ready to start their lives. But she raised 6 boys, if you could believe that. And then my friend Matt Schneider, amazing guy, founder of the New York City Dads Group, has 2 young kids, as you can see, but he's a stay-at-home dad. He's got an amazing story of building a community in New York City around dads. All right, again, I will ask you if you have a couple minutes, please, I would really love to hear your lens statement. I find that to be one of the most powerful exercises we do here around This Epic Life is to capture your specific uniqueness. So if you're not shy, you want to share it, please share it with me. And that concludes week 2. I know it was kind of a marathon here at the end, but if you guys have any questions, I will definitely stay on the line for a little while, and I'll open it up to Chris and Karen to answer any questions that you guys might have. So let's hear them. I know Karen. I know our friend Martin out west had a question about gluten. What's your stance on gluten right now?
Let's see. Sorry, I was muted. Let's see. Gluten it's a really tricky topic because of the fact that, number one, it is a very serious health issue for a lot of people, gluten intolerance. It really is, and dangerous too. So, but at the same time, it's also turned into this marketing thing that the food industry has picked up on and is now marketing everything gluten-free, gluten-free, gluten. So there's a lot of confusion for people when it comes to that. So I don't really have any, I mean, that's my general stance on it, is that you have to look at both sides of that. So it really depends on what's going on in your body, and if you're having issues, that's certainly something to experiment with. You remove it from your diet for a couple of weeks and see how you feel. But if you're having more serious issues, that's definitely something to take serious.
That's a great point too, because I know our friend Cynthia Morris, she'll be on one of the later sessions. She has noticed dramatic, amazing life improvements by giving up gluten. And then I know other people that kind of come and go, have really tested it out, and it hasn't made a huge difference. So I don't know that it's necessarily terrible for everybody. I personally haven't given it a shot of getting rid of it just yet, but it's definitely on my list. I'm working down towards it. It just hasn't become a priority. I just deployed a poll, by the way. I wanted to see what your what area of your physical health is your biggest concern at the moment. And so far, they seem to be pretty even, pretty neck and neck. Our options are: do you need more exercise and cardio, strength training? Is it your posture and frame, or diet, eating more healthy foods? So I'll just kind of leave that up. Yeah, somebody else added too that the quality of our wheat today is way different than the quality of in the past. Another consideration.
Exactly. There's been so many changes as far as that that's why we're seeing more issues with it. So.
Yeah, definitely. I know our friend Laura runs a at-home, super healthy food delivery service called Nourish in Charlotte, North Carolina. She knows a ton about this stuff as well. Wow, who's on the? Somebody said that they're on a gluten-free experiment. They started a week ago. Who is that? Can you hit me with your name in the box? I'd love to. Oh, Greg Berg, awesome. Yeah, let me know how that goes for you. If you can't tell, I'm all about the gathering of data and direct experience. It goes back to my yogi practices. I'm all about sitting down and doing the practice and seeing how it affects me. So I don't necessarily take everything on face value. I try to dig in and see how it works for me. That's why, I mean, my diet's evolved a lot over the years, but a lot of the stuff that Karen's saying, that Chris is saying, these are things that I am giving a lot of consideration to as I put my own vitality practice into play over the next week. Wow, Janet said she's given up gluten and all of her joints have stopped hurting. Wow, and our friend Vicky did the experiment. She found out that sugar's the issue. Yeah, I think sugar is a pretty common culprit, right, Karen?
Sorry, you timed out for a second there.
Oh yeah, no problem. I thought you said you said that sugar is probably one of the most common culprits of the American diet.
Yes, and that's because, again, it's just one of those things that's been snuck into everything that we don't even realize how much we're consuming. You may think you've cut out the cupcakes, cut out all the bad trash or whatever, but it's in your pasta sauce, it's in your, it's in your bread, it's in everything, and it's people just don't realize that we're really up to dangerous levels of it, and that's why we're seeing so many issues when it comes to obesity and all of that. So.
Have you heard anything about? Cindy asked if you've heard any studies about sugar being related to pain, like joint pains or various pains. I know it causes a host of other issues, but.
I would say yes, but I don't have that right in front of me. But there are so many manifestations of the overload of that in our bodies. So it's one of the best things that you could start focusing on. And it's not even like you have to completely, I recommend getting rid of it if you can. But for most people, it's more about just looking at the products and things that you're buying and trying to, read those labels and pay close attention and just get a brand that's got less and just start working on it.
Yeah, I remember probably in 2006 is when I started getting heavy into the personal development stuff, and I ended up with this pH drink that I'm on again, and I gave up, like an idiot, I gave up everything cold turkey. It was, I'm one of those people that manages abstinence much better than manages moderation. So when I decided to quit drinking, it was like flipping a switch. Coffee's the same way. But with that diet, when I got on the high alkaline diet, I cut out everything: sugar, carbs, dairy, coffee, alcohol, for like 3 weeks. And after I was done writhing in pain from all the detox my body was going through, I was experiencing this almost disturbing level of clarity where I realized like how drugged my system had been from all the foods I had been brought up eating and all of the behaviors at the time. And around that time was when I started getting heavy into meditation too. And I think those two things, experiencing that level of clarity is really enough to make you pivot towards making more healthy choices on the regular. Yeah, somebody had a question about glucosamine, hydron. Oh wow, supplements. You know, we'll probably have to cover that offline because that's a pretty in-depth topic. But does anybody have any questions surrounding the curriculum? Do you guys feel like this is daunting at all? Are you scared, or does it seem doable? This means that by after week 3 and week 4, we're going to stack four habits. They're going to lead us towards integration, and then as we approach day 30, we're going to take all of that into our work. We're going to leave by setting some work habits, and then we'll also stack all of the resolutions on top of that. So if you can't tell, I'm trying to get you guys to a place where you're thinking clearly, you're feeling great, your relationships are in order, you're feeling creatively expressive, you're doing all the things that make you you, and then it's like, okay, I want to do that, and then you'll go do it. Does that all make sense so far? Deborah says it's daunting but doable. Is that DDK up in Canada? Yeah. Yeah, I can honestly tell you it is doable. I mean, attacking 5 habits at once is pretty daunting for most people. Usually people will tackle about 1 per month. It takes about 30 days for a habit to solidify. So like even by making this a 5-week program, this is pretty condensed. However, I want you to experience like the major shifts that take place, crafting a lens statement, focusing on these first 2 non-negotiables, reaching out to the people around you. All those things kind of lead you towards this idea of full life integration where you enter flow states more easily, things that you were totally stressing about getting done or changes you were stressing making just happen to change themselves. I mean, it's very powerful. I'd love for some people to experience some of that magic. It seems doable. Tammy, thank you. Thanks for believing. How about we close this out with a song? Does that sound all right? Should I do a song or not do a song? And seriously, no pressure. Like, let's not make this hard or awkward or anything like that. But I don't want to just say, the whole idea of like just closing down the webinar seems kind of sad to me. So why don't we finish it with a song? All right, cool. Chris and Karen, thanks again so much for joining us and lending your expertise and experience. You guys are so brilliant. I'm so inspired by you guys.
Thank you for having me.
Right on. Our pleasure. Can you guys still see me? Oh wait, I gotta close the poll. So let me share that with you guys really quick. Most people are in need of some movement and exercise, but pretty tight across the board. Like we're with strength, structure, and diet coming in, almost neck and neck. All right, so I hid that. All right, here we go. It's been a pleasure. Week 2 coming to a close.